Hello there. So once again, those that set the rules do not need to pay for them, but we do. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And when subscribing, please do press that little bell, but also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. Brilliant. We now have politicians that set the law of the land to punish road users for getting into their cars and driving them so they can get to work or get the shopping, but who themselves slap the charge on their expense accounts for the rest of us, the taxpayers, to pay. That means the taxpayer who has to pay for their own congestion and emission charges have to foot the bill for the bunch that set up these laws in the first place. Yes, the Independent is reporting that 116 MPs are driving about, polluting the air and causing congestion in London, but are expecting the rest of us to pick up their tab for doing so. MPs who drive into Westminster are avoiding tens of thousands of pounds a year in congestion charges and ultra-low emission zone fees by putting them on expenses, the report says. Now, Parliament has put the basis for these charges in statute law, like the Greater London Act and the Transport Act, as well as secondary legislation. MPs over the years have put this in place, so MPs later down the line can show their respect to their own lawmaking body by complying with the rules that they expect the rest of us to meekly obey. They are, after all, collectively the ones that have enforced these charges on ordinary hard-pressed people who drive in London in order to live, work and play. All supposedly with an aim to modify the proletariat behaviour and force them out of their warm, independence-giving personal transport and onto the cold pavements, bicycles and public transport. This will save the planet and help increase air quality, so saving lives, those same hypocritical MPs would claim. But where these MPs are concerned, they are above such things. They are far too important to have their behaviour modified to force them to buy emissions-compliant vehicles or amend their ways to save the planet, improve air quality and save lives. Or don't they believe in their own lawmaking arguments and processes? Don't they believe they have the personal responsibility that they foist on others? And how many other people are doing exactly the same thing? How many lords? How many councillors? How many chief execs? How many Whitehall mandarins? Etc., etc., etc. And how about the Mayor of London himself and his staff? We need statements now, Mr. Khan, to reassure us all that you are as affected by these charges as much as the rest of your constituents are. In fact, we need to know you are all personally paying, no exemptions. You are workers just like everyone else, so should bear the brunt of these charges so it modifies your behaviour as well. The can of worms has truly been opened, so like the MP's expenses scandal, let's get to the bottom of this and find out how widespread it really is. Can it really only be MPs getting up to this sort of thing and only in London? How about in Bath and Birmingham and in Portsmouth starting on the 29th of November? Now this can all be altered immediately by a tax statutory instrument ruling that these charges are not allowable for expenses purposes. The whole point is that these charges are there to punish everybody, not just the great unwashed. Or did our politicians have other ideas when they voted them into law? And the hideous thing about this is, if the people who run the establishment machine that screws ordinary people down with these taxes on their lives are not equally screwed, then how on earth can they know what the effect on people and their livelihoods is? And further, how can they claim to represent us if in reality they are not bound by the same rules, so are merely representing themselves? Oh, and here you go, from the independent report. The most high-profile MP to have the taxpayer cover both the congestion charge and ULEZ charge was Matt Hancock, who made the expense claims while he was still Health Secretary. So what is all this about? Other people must pay to save the planet and improve air quality, but their betters must get about their oh-so-important ministerial work, so you must pay their charges for them. Everybody has important work if it puts food on their tables and pays their bills, or helps others to do just that. What we don't need is a bunch of self-entitled lawmakers dreaming up ways to fleece us, then avoiding paying their fair share of what is effectively the taxes they slap on the nation. Now, some will claim that it's Khan who puts these charges in place. And on a day-to-day basis, yes, but Parliament, both MPs and Lords, voted the enabling legislation onto the statute books that allows the Mayor to put these charges in place. They are the ones that set the system in place. They set the scope. And if they don't like it, there is a legislative process available to them to try and change it. A legislative process that is closed to the rest of us. We can't put forward bills and amendments to legislation. Only they can. And on that basis, they should also be charged for their ministerial car usage too, where applicable. No one should be above this, if climate change is so important. In fact, they should be ensuring their own behaviour is modified to the point they themselves no longer need to drive, if that's what they want everyone else to do. And from today, the London Ultra Low Emission Zone, or ULEZ, has expanded to cover everything up to, but not including, the North and South Circular Roads, with the Standard recently reporting that, excluding vehicles that meet emissions standards, City Hall estimates that about 1 in 5 vehicles in the enlarged 140 square mile zone will be liable to pay the ULEZ £12.50 a day levy, including 100,000 cars, 35,000 vans and 3,000 lorries. Does that factor in those that drive hugely polluting vehicles but pay the charge on expenses like local MPs, etc.? And get this, according to the Independent report, after the Independent had collated the data for this story, but before IPSA responded to a request for comment, the Expenses Authority wiped the relevant details from the expenses data from its website. What the opacity of transparent government in action. We're all in this together, not. Yes, I know MPs have to work in London, but so do many other people. And if politicians are going to put a tax ratchet in place to make it impossibly hard for everyone else, then they must also suffer in exactly the same way. But you can imagine these people all jawing away in their cocktail parties and loftily saying, let the proles also put their emissions charges on expenses. Can't you? But if that was possible, and everyone did exactly that, then there'd be no change in people's behaviours at all, and it would all just be a massive tax scam to fill the London City Hall coffers. Oh, wait. So what's your opinion on 116 MPs slapping these charges on their expenses accounts? Please like and comment below.